Now to the latest on the Operation Epic Fury. President Donald J. Trump giving a primetime address on Iran last night where he stated that the war is winding down, but the fight is not over yet.
Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong.
The president also addressing the pain at the pump as the conflict pushes gas prices here in the U.S. to over $4 a gallon.
This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict. This is yet more proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They will use them, and they will use them quickly. It would lead to decades of extortion, economic pain, and instability worse than we can ever imagine. The United States has never been better prepared economically to confront this threat.
So the commander-in-chief also calling on other countries to step up to help secure the Strait of Hormuz and says, we don't need it.
The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. The countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on.
Oh, now let's get right to the action. Jonathan Hunt is live in Tel Aviv as Iran fires one of their largest missile barrages in weeks as Israelis observe Passover. Jonathan.
Brian, good morning to you. Israeli officials had warned that Iran might indeed step up its barrage against Israel in the run-up to the Passover holiday, which is now underway. And Iran followed through on that, sending missile after missile throughout the day on Wednesday and again overnight. Missiles raining down on Tel Aviv and other areas across the country. On some of the strikes on Wednesday, there was some significant damage done in central Israel. There were dozens of people injured, including one 11-year-old girl who yesterday, at least, was listed as in critical condition. We are awaiting an update on her condition today. And as Iranian proxies across the region continue to join the fight, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq, is now urging U.S. citizens to leave that country, saying, quote, they may intend to target U.S. citizens, businesses, universities, diplomatic facilities, energy infrastructure, hotels, airports, and other locations perceived to be associated with the United States, as well as Iraqi institutions and civilian targets. Terrorist militias have targeted Americans for kidnapping. U.S. citizens should leave Iraq now. And as President Trump says the bombardment of Iran will go on for another 2 to 3 weeks. Flames continue to burn, for instance, outside of Isfahan, Iraq. That, of course, is the site of one of Iran's major nuclear facilities. But as for the president's comments that Iran is seeking a ceasefire, those have been shot down by Iranian officials. A spokesman for the Iranian foreign minister saying, for instance, we will not tolerate this vicious cycle of war, negotiations, ceasefire, and then repeating the same pattern. This is an unjust war that has been imposed on the Iranian people. We have no choice but to fight back strongly. And this morning, a spokesperson for the Iranian military has said that the U.S. and Israel, quote, have no idea about our strategic capabilities, essentially saying that they have plenty of missiles and they are willing to keep this war going as long as it takes. Brian?
All right. Thanks so much, Jonathan. So we'll see. The President of the United States gave an update saying we're basically almost running out of targets about things we want to shoot and things we want to do. as well as taking over the strait. I think the president's got two missions in mind, and I think he's been given a bunch of options about taking some of the islands with the help perhaps of the UAE and reopening the strait ourselves, which has some risk. There also is a Washington Post story today that talks about how the president 2 weeks ago said, give me some ideas of what a mission would look like to go get the uranium. So it would be heavy equipment, it would be digging down, it'll be more difficult than Venezuela, more difficult than getting bin Laden. It would take more time. You have to set up almost a mini city and a base in order to dig this out. But is it worth it to get the 460 kilograms out of the ground?
The most important two words that President Trump said last night, and people need to understand, to your point, Brian, is nuclear shield. Okay, if Iran is able to get a nuclear weapon, they have a nuclear shield. In the same way, Kim Jong-un has a nuclear shield. Any basic international relations course tells you about mutually assured destruction. Two nuclear powers do not attack one another. And it all rests on the basis of rational actors. Iran is not rational. They are a tyrannical regime, and not just that, an ideological regime motivated by religious fanaticism. They cannot get their hands on a nuclear weapon. And President Trump is the first president to do what Bill Clinton said and George Bush said, and every president before him has said. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear shield.
So, Kayla, you're exactly right. And the reaction to the speech yesterday was mixed. And I think people haven't quite gotten. I know we've had Donald Trump for 11 years now on the political circuit, but they don't understand strategy-wise of how he operates. Number one, if you're expecting something new as it relates to military strategy, you're never going to get the military strategy at all. You will get bullet points, but that's about it. He's not going to telegraph what he's going to do. He likes to get the enemy by surprise. And the media should also, especially since they've been taking most of the propaganda from Iran, realize that you're a tool for the president. He's using you to telegraph different things that he may or may not do to keep the Iranians guessing. But many people on the circuit in the late shows last night were expecting something different from the president. This was their reaction.
He makes clear in those statements that he makes tonight that this is a war of his choosing. We didn't have to be there. We just went to help. Help who? Why?
And there was a bit of an, inherent contradiction in saying that the objectives are very nearly complete. It's almost over, but we're going to attack Iran into the Stone Age over the next few weeks.
Trump is on course to get a thank you card from the Ayatollahs this year. This speech was a disaster.
It was a big night on all the broadcast networks. Donald Trump at 9 o'clock gave a national primetime address. It was concise, intelligent, and brought the nation together with shared purpose. April Fools. Trump.
Rooting against the country. I think it's shameful right now. The president doesn't deserve some credibility. He earned the credibility. We've had several military operations where we got in and got out. Seamless, no casualties at the time. Some of our troops got injured, but they were flawless in a sense. And so now we have the big one, the big enchilada that has been a threat for 47 years. And you mean to tell me you're not going to give him any credibility on this operation?
It's unbelievable. This is the commander-in-chief that killed al-Baghdadi, that killed Soleimani, that ended 2 dictatorships. Do we not remember Venezuela? He has earned, to your exact point, the trust of the American people. And these really neophytes in the liberal media don't understand by now that he plays chess with the various pieces, and he's always communicating something to someone strategically. I mean, you can't help them at this point. It's been a decade, and they still don't get the math.
The only thing I add is I don't think he can deal with the president of Iran. I don't think he's got the power. I think the IRGC is the one we have to deal with. Because if you sit down with that president who says, I promise a ceasefire, I don't believe it for a second, doesn't have that power in the way their government is set up. Also, we've already seen a few times we're not going to hit our Arab neighbors, and they did, because the IRGC calls the shots. And number two is I don't think we can leave without opening up the Strait of Hormuz. So I think we have to do that. We can't leave it to open on its own.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.